Welcome back to Fast Market on the TD Ameritrade Network. I'm Tom White, joined by my co-host Kevin Hinks. But let's bring in our next guest, and that's going to be Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com. Thanks for joining us, Landon.
Doing good today. How you guys doing?
Doing well. We're doing better than Bed Bath & Beyond stock, Landon, because this stock's fallen about 70% over the last 11 months. Now, this stock went from about $3 up to about $53, from the lows of March of 2020 as people were at home and buying more things. But this stock has just been on a downtrend. What kind of data are you guys seeing ahead of their earnings tomorrow morning?
So I think to be fair, you got to put things in perspective a little bit. If you look at where it was sort of pre-COVID, it was in the high teens, I think around 17 or 18, and we're around, 14 right now, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that run to 50 had to do with the short squeeze. And I don't think it was one of the meme stocks, but there was a lot of short squeeze concerns around it, and I think that pushed it up. So if you've been an investor over the last couple of years, you've seen some very low lows and some very high highs. It's a wild ride. And I can tell you the data it's been pretty negative over the last few years. And it makes sense. I mean, this company hasn't seen a fiscal year that's profitable since, I think, 2018. So they've been struggling. They've had a couple of good quarters here and there. But overall, the stock has followed where the revenue's gone. And that's kind of what our purchase intent has shown, is that they've just become less and less effective at getting people in the door and spending money. And I think frankly, I think it is a little bit of a, outdated business model. They're starting to get people moving over to digital, which is good. But still, as of the last report, I think 2/3 of their sales were still in store, which they need to really change. You can see a big, sharp downtrend or decrease from the purchase intent line. That's the green line, the 90-day moving average of people saying, I bought something from Bed Bath & Beyond. They can say it hundreds of different ways. That's our job to decipher that. But you can see it's been downtrending, but we're starting to get a little bit of a bump here, just a little bit of a turnaround while the stock is down. You could argue that we're beginning to see a little bit of a divergence here where maybe this company has stopped the bleeding. And if you kind of look at, again, going back to where the stock was, it was starting to make a little bit of a recovery back before COVID and all the short stores shut down. So they made a pretty good shift over to their omnichannel, digital and online. We see a plus 37% increase omnichannel over 2019. So that's strong, right? It's not what it was. Of course, 2020 was an outlier year. You're not going to get those numbers, but there is some level of stickiness. And we like to see that right side of the chart moving up higher than it was pre-pandemic. So they've done a decent job of converting people. But, I think one of the big problems is they just saw such a big decrease from foot traffic. And they're doing, again, okay on the omnichannel. It's a good increase, but I think they're falling behind some of their competition because you got to think about, Amazon and Target. And if you think about, this is actually a kind of a bellwether here. I'm glad you got this chart up. The registry mentioned, so people talking about registering for their wedding or another special event and saying, go to Bed Bath & Beyond for my event. That's moving down and it's struggling, whereas Amazon and Target are surging. So people are getting used to going online and registering for things where they used to walk through Bed Bath & Beyond with a scanner and hit everything and say, I want this, I want this, I want this. Now they just do it online. It saves them time and money, and it saves their guests time and money. I think that Bed Bath & Beyond is a little bit it's struggling right now, maybe starting to turn it around. And I think part of that is just trimming the fat. They're cutting about 1 in 7 stores. They're closing, I think, 200 stores out of 1,500. So they see the problems and they're addressing them. But right now, I think it may be a little too early to say this is a turnaround, but it's starting to have the signs of a potential turnaround.
Landon, Alex Coffey has referred to me as a serial optimist, and I'm going to prove him right now when I talk about Bed Bath Beyond and ask you questions, because obviously, the move up to $53, that was a meme stock. And since then, the enthusiasm for this company has kind of faded. And it's very hard to find good news, Landon, on this company. But, when it's all bad news, right, and a stock acts like this, you don't need much good news to turn it around. I've seen that enough times in my life, and They are starting to reduce costs. They are starting to trim down their portfolio. They're focusing on home goods, right, which is actually a growing category. So the question is, Landon, with all the other data you've seen, and you even mentioned it's starting to bottom out here, is this one of those things where they're going to put out a bunch of bad news and enough good news to make this stock at least hold this area or move higher, Landon? In a sea of bad news, is there enough good news to make this stock recover, Landon?
Yeah, I think you're right, because when you've got a stock that's just getting beat down continually, and you start looking at the valuation and their quarterly revenue numbers are rivaling or beating their market cap. Of course, they're losing money, so it's tough to, it's always hard to talk about PE ratios when you're losing money. But when you get those kind of numbers and everything is just down, everything's negative, I agree. It doesn't take much. I'm not sure if this is the quarter. We do see just signs of life, which is maybe all it takes. I mean, you get a situation where a company's bleeding like crazy and the bleeding slows or maybe even stops. That's obviously going to be a big plus. But again, if you look at where the stock was 2 years ago, we're not that much lower. You think about pre-COVID versus now, we're 14, it was 18. I mean, that's a big percentage, but still it's not significant. It's not like it was in March of 2020 down the 4 or 5 range. So I think that investors they're ready if there is a catalyst that says, hey, you know what, Bed Bath & Beyond is turning things around, it's looking profitable, it's starting to go in the right direction. I think you could get there. I don't think it's this quarter. I think that, our earnings score is actually pretty neutral this quarter, but we've got purchase intent numbers beginning to creep up. But again, that one of those bellwethers that we look at is that wedding registry, and that being on the decline, and Amazon and Target absolutely dominating that space is a bit of a negative for me. I'm not quite a believer in Bed Bath & Beyond just yet, but if they do report decent numbers here and the stock holds or sells off, then maybe I could be talked into a position going into the next earnings report after this one, or taking a position after this one if it does sell off on halfway good numbers, because expectations are low. I don't think that it's going to be difficult for them to beat that bar, but again, they're just struggling right now, and I need to see really solid turnaround, because if you've been in one, you guys know it's just not the best experience. You do the lap, you do a circle, you got to carry your 20% off coupon with you, and you compare that to going on Target or Amazon. It's just, there's no comparison. I mean, this is a company that really needs to turn things around. I think it has to be done online. Yeah. They're starting to out towards that path, but they're not there yet. Yeah,
they do have that collaboration with Kroger as far as the e-commerce business, where you can pick up stuff through their website. But Landon, I think about this company in 2 ways. You're moving, you got to go to Bed Bath & Beyond. You're taking your kid to college, you go to Bed Bath & Beyond. And that's about it for me, but that's my opinion. But if you look at the foot traffic in other retailers that started to pick up after the Delta variant, right? So maybe that equating to your Delta or your data improving on the omnichannel, and maybe foot traffic picking up? Or is it because that it was the holiday season and more people are purchasing and maybe getting out into the stores? As far as the data goes, which one are you seeing the trends forming here?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that you can somewhat discount that move up in purchase intent, because you've got 2 things happening. You have a lot of stores reopening, and you've got the holiday season, which, if you go to Bed Bath & Beyond to maybe buy a gift for somebody, I think you could do better stores, but whatever, if that's what you want to do. Yeah, you got those 2 things working for that purchase intent, and it may be a seasonal thing, and it may be, I don't know how you classify a variant as far as COVID goes as seasonal, but it maybe more macro and affecting all stores rather than just this one. So we like the little bump up. It's better than not having it. Yeah. But I also do think you have to discount it, just like you're talking about, and just say, well, maybe this is holiday, maybe this is stores opening back up, and let's see what it does over the next 3 months, the first part of the year, when there are no strong reasons to go back to the stores, nothing seasonal like that. So I'm really interested to see how they report. Again, we're neutral on it. I'm going to be sidelines, but if there's any good news, like if they can get close to profitability, if they can get revenue up, expenses down, and the stock is flat or down, then I could be talked into a turnaround play in this one on a longer term position.
All right, relatively neutral on that data. I think they need to have some work on their layout too, Landon. You mentioned that. Going around that store, it's just a whirlwind. You just your head's spinning by the time you get out of there. But thanks for the data, as always, Landon.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.
All right, Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com.